let me restart again. So this is our 6th week, and we've been talking about meditation, and this week we will be continuing on this topic, but it'll be on enlightenment. Okay, so in the book, our founder had said that it's in the 21st century, it's the Buddhist century, and it'll be more specifically the century of meditation. Of course, it's not just meditation. It does not only belong to Buddhism. Meditation can be found in everyone's mind. It's a treasure that is shared by all humanity. As you might had heard of this term, mindfulness. It's everywhere. Everyone wants to be able to be mindful, wants a bit of the training of mindfulness. So we can see this trend happening in our times. So it goes back to the history. We talked about the first Gong'an, or the first instance of the teaching of Chan Buddhism, or the transmission of the Chan teaching, the wordless teaching that is passed on generation through mind to mind or heart to heart transmission. It all started when the Buddha held up the flower in the Vulture's Peak Assembly, and had started since, transmitted Chan teaching to first the elder Mahakashapa, who he also gave the Chan teaching to all living beings. So to reiterate that, Chan is not a doctrine. Chan is not something that is written in words, but it's a direct experience, direct experiencing of the Buddha's teaching, which is the teaching of truth. So Chan can be said like the energy of the sun. For as long as the sun hangs in the sky, it shines down on the earth. In the same way, as long as we have our minds, we can have the energy of Chan, or in that case, mindfulness, wherever we go. So Chan is not supernatural. It's not something mysterious. It's not something that is intangible. It is actually something that we are always living with in our daily life. And if we are able to be mindful enough, aware enough, then there's Chan. So Chan can be said like the following verse. The same old moon is seen out of the window. You've seen it all the time. Every month there'll be a full moon. But when there are plum that blossoms outside of this window, it is no longer the same. It has a different feeling to it. So this can be said as the same with Chan. You live the same daily life, day in and day out. But if you live it with a sense of mindfulness, with a sense of awareness, with Chan, then you will be able to taste more into life. You will be able to feel all the minute, the minuscule details of life. So therefore, just like the moon, when there's a plum blossom, it will have a different feeling to it. And so the whole world is permeated by the subtleties of Chan, and there is nothing that appears in nature which is beyond its wondrous use. So Chan can be said, it is, you could put Chan with an equivalent of a Buddhist wisdom, of mindfulness. It's a state of enlightenment. And Chan and meditation has spread from east to west, as it originated in India, it spread to China, in East Asia, and now it is in the West, and has evolved from an exclusive monastic practice to a form of spiritual cultivation that is practiced by both monastics and lay people. So it's not just monks and nuns, it's for everyone in every level of society. And for modern people who live in this hectic society, in this hectic world, being able to sit quietly for few minutes every day and occasionally participate in meditation activities and retreats at the temple can give us the energy to continue on with our lives. And so it is, our founder compares it to recharging, as in you will, when you drive a car, you will go to the gas station to refuel, and you're using any electronics, you will need to recharge every now and then. And so meditation, the practice of mindfulness, can be said as recharging your mind. And sitting meditation is a skillful way to develop meditative concentration. And some people would go astray because they practice sitting meditation for a certain objective. They wanted something other than enlightenment. They want the things that the sort of supernatural powers that have been mentioned in the sutra or in other religions. And some people might practice it for that end, for that goal. And other practice sitting meditation to become the Buddha. It's a good goal for you to set to become a Buddha, but by attaching yourself to that goal, it's also kind of dangerous, as in if you attach too much to it, a lot of people might had some feeling of they got enlightened when they're meditating, and suddenly they feel like, oh, I am the Buddha and I'm really great. And so that will lead to some wrong views in the process, as well, as in you are not able to see this properly. Instead of seeking that as a goal, we should just live life mindfully and be able to see enlightenment as a natural part of our practice. And such commitment is insufficient. If it's you're meditating for certain having ideas of you wanted to get this, to get that, to become Buddha, and you might be following the wrong method. So thus, nothing comes from all the effort because you're aiming at the wrong goal, at the wrong place. And so how do we actually practice? Well, generations of Chan masters of ancient China, Japan, Korea practice Chan not to become Buddhas, but to seek enlightenment. And not just like the greatest of all enlightenment, maybe just some small enlightenment in your daily life, just the small details, the small discoveries of your life. And one cannot become a Buddha just by merely actively searching for it. It's not something external. It's actually something internal, because everyone have the Buddha nature with you. And rather, it takes a long period of practice to become a Buddha. And some would, and especially Mahayana, a lot of people will argue you can become enlightened in a lifetime, but to really become, quote unquote, a Buddha, it takes several lifetimes to be just like Sakyamuni Buddha, to be able to enlighten by himself, to be through his own effort, and to be able to have that merits and affinities to be able to spread the teaching as well, to become just like the Buddha. It takes countless lifetime. And in the sutra, it said 3 great kalpas to just perfect one's wisdom and merits, and 100 small kalpas to perfect the supreme marks. So kalpas, it's like eons in the English language, and there is a certain way to calculate it, but it's generally a long period of time. So rather than seeking to become a Buddha, one should strive to perfect one's own wisdom and merits. And once these qualities have been perfected, one will naturally become a Buddha. So it's rather than just to seek like a goal to become a Buddha, something externally, it's you're perfecting yourself. You're perfecting your mind and your actions and all the things that comes with it. And naturally, you will become just like the Buddha. And the most important thing to remember here about sitting meditation is that all the work done to develop meditative concentration must carry over to our daily life, to our everyday life. And the Buddha's teaching must be experienced in your daily activities before there can be any meditation. It's because, simply said, meditation cannot be divorced from your daily life. It should come hand in hand. And you cannot see deeply into the mind apart from the work that you're doing and the service that you're rendering to other people. And hence, in Mahayana Buddhism, it's not just about meditation in the meditation hall. It's also going outside to the community to be a volunteer, to give service to other people, because that is also part of our practice. It's also part of our meditation. And so the daily life of a Chan practitioner cannot be separated from their work. Can be, well, there's a metaphor being given, just as fish cannot live without water and trees cannot grow without soil. A Chan practitioner's daily labors are the provisions which support him on the path. It might seem something that is simple, and especially when we talk about it historically, when Chan Buddhism first developed in China, monks and nuns, they used to travel and they used to rely on the alms food that has been provided by the towns and villages to be able to sustain themselves. But when Buddhism spread to China, it's not easy to live a life through alms food, because in Chinese culture, unlike in Indian culture, it is seen like begging, and begging in Chinese culture is like just the lowest of the low, the lowest tier. And a lot of monks couldn't survive just by doing that. So instead of relying on alms food, and plus the weather is in China is different from in India, because in China you have winter, you will have snowstorms, blizzards, etc. So it's not possible to go out to beg for alms. And so the Chan masters of the time had proposed and actually led all the monks and nuns to go back to their temple, and they start planting vegetables. They plant their food. And so that started what we call the Chan Revolution. We, instead of going out for alms food, we cultivate our own food. And therefore, in Mahayana Buddhism or in Chinese Buddhism, we're primarily vegetarian. Oh, we are almost all vegetarian. But in other tradition, Buddhist monks and nuns might not be vegetarian because they rely on alms food. People, out of their goodwill, they give food to them. So they shouldn't, well, we shouldn't be picky when we are offered food. So that is also one point. But the Chan monks and nuns of that of the ancient time, they went back to their temple, and they need to do all these works by themselves, planting the food and also doing all the manual chores. And so it supports their lifestyle as well as basically enabling to be able to practice their meditation in this way. And so many Chan masters become enlightened by doing all these works. So basically in here, you will see all the different ways a person can be enlightened. It's not always listening to the Dharma, listening to a talk, and suddenly you get inspired and you get enlightened. So these are the different examples that how one might be able to get enlightened. So some Chan masters will be enlightened while bent over piles to split wood or shouldering heavy loads as part of their daily work. They get enlightened in that process. And if any of us had been doing any like manual work lately, it may seem repetitive and it might seem boring at times, but it's actually very healing. As in, it's a very calm process. And you can, when you're into that process, you can actually be very focused, just like in the meditation. So therefore, there's a lot of examples that we see here. A lot of these Chan masters, they get enlightened when they're in this focused state of doing all these works. And so, for example, here, Master Xian Xiangyan Zixian, while he's where he's tilling the field, where he's hoeing, he get enlightened. There's Dongshan Liangjie, who enlightened when he caught a glimpse of his own shadow in a river. And there's Master Muso from Japan, who become enlightened when he's starting to want to fall asleep and leaning against a wall, get enlightened. And there's also Master Xun, who is actually closer to our time, become enlightened upon breaking a teacup. And Master Yongming Yanshou become enlightened when he heard the sound of some firewood hitting the ground. So there are a lot of these similar cases, and you can actually read all of these cases, these records in the Chan works. There's been, of course, there's a lot of records that has been translated to English in recent years. And so enlightenment is the true goal of developing meditative concentration. And for an enlightened Chan masters, the mountains, they're still mountains, and the rivers, they're still rivers. The world is still the world. And the difference is that the mountains, rivers, and the great earth itself becomes one with the Chan master. He doesn't see himself as separate from all these external conditions. He is part of this condition, part of this cause and effect of the world, and exist together with this world, and can actually use it as he pleases, because he see this connection. He knows how these connection work, and he's willing to give himself to that connection, all these conditions as well. And so it is said the way is within you, because you understand your place or how you fit in this big picture. So it is not something that can be sought outside of you, because everything is actually at one with you. So therefore, to become enlightened, you can only rely on yourself. For enlightenment can only be realized by your own. So there was an example that's been given. The novice monk once asked his master, the Chan master, Zhao Zhou, and he asks, how should one learn the way? How should meditation be practiced? How does one become enlightened? How does one attain Buddhahood? All these questions. And the Chan master Zhao Zhou just nodded his head and okay, all right, it's a very good question. And he just stood up and said to him, I don't have time to speak to you. I need to go to the restroom. I need to take a pee. And the Chan master started to walk away as if he's ignoring the novice monk that had his student that has just asked him all these questions. And after just taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped, looked back, and said to him with a smile, well, you asked me such big questions, but even something as simple as peeing, I will still need to do it by myself. So how can you do it for me? And the same goes to those questions. How should one learn the way? How should meditation be practiced? How does one become enlightened? And how does one attain Buddhahood? It all goes back to you. How can you be able to put in those effort and really be able to take in all the teachings that you have learned and really put it into practice? And only then, if you're able to put in all these effort, that you will move closer and closer towards your own enlightenment. And so one can seek enlightenment by practicing meditation, but how should we practice so that we can attain enlightenment? Because a lot of people meditate, but not everyone is able to become enlightened. So total and complete enlightenment is not something that we can attain easily, as mentioned. Buddhahood, it takes a long time, but enlightenment, small enlightenments can still be achieved in our daily life. One must develop small moments of insights and understanding each day, as in when you're mindful enough, you will see things from another angle. You might perceive a certain problem or a certain task, a certain person that you may find them problematic, or they give you, well, they just give you a hard time. But sometimes when you're mindful enough, you see the better side of them. You see that it's not all bad. There's actually good part of them as well. So these are actually, by seeing these matters from other perspectives, from other angles, you will actually develop small insights and understanding each day, because by by then you won't be feeling so much anger. You won't feel that this person he's just there to give you all these troubles. It it might not be what you seem. It might be your own bias or the things that you thought up by yourself. So if you're able to develop these insights and you are able to develop and accumulate it each day, you will see more and more of these. And just like Chan, when you have more of these insights, your life will be much more beautiful, and you'll see things in myriads of ways because of that. So these small daily bits of enlightenment accumulate over time, and until they culminate in the sudden flash of great enlightenment. So we talked about the gradual practice and this gradual practice of towards enlightenment, and there's the sudden enlightenment last week. And so we should see both as equal, as in there is also a way to be able to accumulate, to gradually work, as in for a Buddha, for a Bodhisattva, you will still need to accumulate merits along the way to be able to attain towards great wisdom. But there's also the case, such as been mentioned last week, the case of the sixth patriarch. He attained sudden enlightenment just by listening to some verse in the sutra, but one would also argue that he didn't just do all his work in that particular lifetime. It's not just this lifetime you should look at. He might have accumulated all these causes and conditions through countless lifetimes, and it came into fruition in this sudden enlightenment at that moment. So we shouldn't be focused on the moment, but we should really understand that there must be a lot of effort that have been done to enable these moments, these sudden flashes of enlightenment. And so we should treat both equally. The gradual practice that you put in, as well as the sudden enlightenment that one might achieve, it should really be treated as equals. So enlightenment requires the right causes and conditions to occur. For only when things fall perfectly into place can one develop understanding. It is much like a radio that must be tuned to the right frequency to produce the right sound, or a camera that needs to be focused to capture a sharp image. When things are just at the right point, and you will be able to really see the right image, to really see what reality looks like. We might think that we know how reality looks like, but our mind is not focused, it's not really being unbiased enough. We are constantly been affected by our own thoughts, our so-called biases all the time, that we are not able to see the true truth that is in front of us. That is why when we are able to really change our angle, change our position, change our perspective a little bit every time, we are able to see more and more of these bits of realities that are able to be perceived from us, by us. And this is also a really good example that's given. There's something in the chat, just making sure. Okay, right. So this example is by the Chan master Ma Zu Daoyi, and was a prominent monastic who lived in the Tang Dynasty. And he's an enlightened monk. After his enlightenment, he returned to his home village and visited his sister-in-law, and his sister-in-law treated him with extraordinary respect because in ancient times, well, there's a lot of practicing monk, but it's not every day that you'll be able to meet with someone that is enlightened or claim that they're enlightened. So she honored him as a teacher and asked him how she could become enlightened as well. And the master Ma Zu Daoyi answered her. So let me just give you a very simple way, a very simple instruction. So just go and bring a chicken egg to me, and we'll just hang it up mid-air with strings. And then what you need to do is just listen to it carefully every day. And when the time you hear the egg make a sound, then you will be enlightened. That's all it takes. So it's simple enough. So his sister-in-law believed him. And so she suspended a chicken egg as he instructed and listened to it every day to see if she could hear any sound from it at all. So many years have passed. She did not hear much of a sound, but she never neglected her practice because she had so much faith and confidence in this Chan master, this enlightened Chan master that instructed her. And so she kept on doing this practice, kept on just paying deep attention to this egg and see if there's any sound that comes from it. And over time, the string from the egg hung slowly began to rot. And so one day it broke and it fell. And when the egg dropped through the air, and the moment it hit the ground and cracked, it is then that this sister-in-law heard this sound, that it got cracked, and she became enlightened. So from here, what can we really get from this? As in, it's not much about the sound it makes. It is more of the attention that she's paying. She puts in all the effort and she believed so much in that instruction, and really don't think much about it. She just really wanted to hear the sound because she really wanted to be enlightened. She wanted to really be able to understand the greater meanings of life, the greater truth. And so she put in years and years and years of effort without really questioning about it too much. And we need to understand this sister-in-law, she lives in the village. She might not have a lot of chance, opportunity to get educated. So she might not know a lot of Buddhist sutras. She might not know a lot of Buddhist teaching, but she kept on doing this one thing that this Chan master that had told her. And because of the effort that she put in, time when the egg dropped and cracked, she heard that sound, and maybe she get the message. She get the message from there. Okay, it's not that sound that Time Master wanted to for me to listen to, but my own sound. How am I able to hear my own sound? How am I able to pay attention to my own thoughts in the process? Because of this, the whole process that is trying to really wanted to seek something outside, but it's actually something that is inside of her. So this is just my take of how the sister-in-law is able to get enlightened through this simple instruction. But I would like to hear from everyone at the end of the class. What do you think about this whole practice of hearing the egg making a sound? Okay. And so the self and exterior things should be seen as one. They're originally one. It is only through our own ego, our own attachment, that we see self as in separate, as in we are sort of higher or better than anything else. But there's no such thing. And in fact, in the Buddha's teaching, there is no such thing as the self. But of course, that's only able to be realized if you're truly enlightened. So the self and the exterior, all things are originally one, for there has never been a real world outside of the mind. Everything is perceived through this mind. And the sound of egg cracking broke through the distinction between the internal and the external, and the separation between the self and others. So as long as one's thoughts are unified and one's spirit is concentrated, even insentient objects. So we talk about sentient beings, beings with thoughts, beings with consciousness, as well as there's insentient objects that are the flowers, the grasses, the rocks, anything that is insentient can teach the path towards enlightenment as well, because it's not separate from you, from your mind. And there have been many great monks and sages who attained enlightenment through their method of doing so are sometimes quite strange. And here comes other of these examples again. Some have become enlightened suddenly upon seeing flowers bloom or fall, and others become enlightened by hearing the bubbling spring or the sound of the frog croaking. And some become enlightenment upon breaking a cup, a plate. Just now there's a teacup breaking and someone gets enlightened. So enlightenment must be directly experienced, and it's not something an average person can wildly speculate about. It's not something that we can guess what is actually happening in their mind. It's the experience that they are going through, and it gets them there. So those who casually imitate the words and actions of Chan practitioners without doing the real work to attain enlightenment will fall short and invite the ridicule of those who truly know. And so the story goes, once there was a young man who was sitting in meditation when an old Chan master passed by. So although the young man noticed the Chan master, he did not rise to greet him. And in ancient times, it's considered really disrespectful. The Chan master then sort of scolded him. How can a young person you not stand and greet an older person? So have you no common courtesy? Don't you have like respect? So the young man tried to imitate the style of the wise Chan practitioner and said to this old master, to greet you sitting down is to greet you standing up. So that is to say, I don't need to stand up to greet you. I might as well just be sitting down. And so the old master heard this and stepped forward and just slapped the young man on the face and said, why? The young man asked, why did you hit me? And the Chan master responded with a smile. To slap you is to not slap you. So this is it's the same logic over here. So Chan is not about seeing who is smarter using common sense or ordinary knowledge, nor is it something that can be imitated by putting on an act. And the wisdom of enlightenment radiates forth naturally and is not something that can be attained by guesswork or being a copycat, trying to copy others. And the wisdom of enlightenment is also different from other kinds of knowledge. We talked about the term prajna, especially in the Heart Sutra. The full name of the Heart Sutra is called Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. That is the perfection of prajna or perfection of wisdom. But we are trying to sort of separate this kind of wisdom, like the Buddhist wisdom, ultimate wisdom, from any kind of common knowledge that could attain through, for example, reading and gaining more knowledge. So knowledge may come from direct experience, like when someone hits you and you think, ouch, that hurts, or when your stomach is growling and you think, well, I'm hungry. And knowledge can be about feeling happy or feeling sad, distinguishing between what is good or bad, understanding what is right or wrong. This is all good. It's common knowledge, and all of these kinds of knowledge, they are not the same as the wisdom of enlightenment. And so when Sir Isaac Newton saw an apple fall to the ground, he developed a knowledge of gravity. And Benjamin Franklin's knowledge of electricity set in motion the development of electrical science, resulting in a lot of development of technology that we might take for granted today. And these discoveries are not the same as enlightenment. And though the accumulation of knowledge has led us to a lot of scientific development, understanding, which had greatly benefited humanity, but it is nothing compared to the wisdom of enlightenment. And when the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he had said to attain the perfect and complete enlightenment. And as he watched the twinkling stars at night, at the moment of his enlightenment, he said this, marvelous, marvelous, all sentient beings have the Tathagatas or the Buddha's wisdom and virtue, but they fail to realize it because they cling to their deluded thoughts and attachment, and hence unable to really see the truth that is just in front of them. So this is the wisdom of enlightenment that comes from spiritual practice. And enlightenment is finding something that was hidden. Although we say it is hidden, it has always been there with us. We all have the Buddha nature. And it is a sudden flash of light, a sudden flash of enlightenment that makes us exclaim, oh, I have found it. And it is searching for the source of life and finding your own original face, your Buddha nature. It is like being transported back to your hometown and seeing all your parents, all your relatives after so many years of being apart. So it's sort of like a feeling of coming home and being able to realize, oh, it has always been there. It has always been with you. Enlightenment can make you laugh for 3 days, and all the rivers and mountains on earth will appear just like your family, and every mountain peak for thousands of miles seem like an old friend. Enlightenment can also make you cry for 3 days, like a weary son who returns to the embrace of his loving mother after a long absence, shedding tears of gratitude when there's nothing more to be said. So there are a lot of these different stories of enlightenment. People would just laugh out because they have finally found it, and then there are also people that cried because they have found that they had always been searching for something that they had failed to see all these years, and they suddenly find it. So it's tears of joy in a certain sense. So enlightenment is an equivocal conception. Enlightenment is the power of penetrating insight. Enlightenment is awakening to your own intrinsic nature, and enlightenment is complete understanding. So enlightenment is the realization that many things that may seem very different from each other, they're actually one. It is only through our bias and our discriminating thoughts trying to put things into category that they may seem like two or more. So an enlightened person sees life and death as one and knows that life is not always joyful and death is not always sad. An enlightened person sees motion and stillness as one, for within this world of constant change and motion, there is the tranquility of nirvana, which is the state of equanimity, the state of enlightenment. And within that tranquility, there are countless beings who live a thriving and active life. So an enlightened person sees existence and non-existence as one, for as wonderful as existence is, it is from non-existence that the millions of forms of existence can arise. You can almost imagine like the start of our universe. There's Big Bang, there's from nothing, and from this nothing, it birthed millions of stars and planets, and also life within this big universe as well. So an enlightened person sees coming and going as one, for what has come has not truly come, and what has gone is not truly gone. And the gathering of family and the departing of old friend is one and the same. So enlightenment allows us to see unity where there seems to be contradiction, and discover simplicity from within complexity. So it allows us to find an open path amidst many obstacles and liberation from the chains that binds us. Enlightenment involves both revelation and awareness. Enlightenment is like a sudden flash of light within the darkness that shines through the cloud of ignorance and reveals the brightness of the world. This is the revelation that comes from enlightenment. And on the other hand, after all has been revealed, one looks back on the world and on the delusion of the past and realize just how unaware they were. So this is the unawareness that comes from enlightenment. And so the unenlightened mind has many attachments. And when people are not yet enlightened, they hunger for fame, fortune, and are bothered by conflict and disagreements with others, and wallow in illusions of romance, love, all of these desires. They cannot let go of these things and are unable to liberate themselves. After enlightenment, You can break free from the bonds of fame and fortune, break free from the confusion of love's many desires. With an enlightened mind, you are able to view the world with clarity and assume your proper place in the universe to be able to feel at one with the world. Enlightenment encompasses everything from your ideas to how you live your life. An enlightened life is a life of freedom where one is open to all conditions as they arise. It is a life which is natural, just true and beautiful, and it's beyond all comparison. And so before attaining enlightenment, one will see the world through clouded visions. We are not able to see. It's just like layers and layers of fog, unable to understand the true nature of things. After attaining enlightenment, one looks upon the world's phenomena like a blind person who are finally able to see. And one can now see with true clarity of the original nature of the mountains, rivers, and great earth itself. But after enlightenment, what happens after enlightenment? So after you're enlightened, you still go back to your practice. There is a saying that some people, you will practice first and get enlightened later. Some will get enlightened first and will practice later. But it is all on the same path towards Buddhahood. You will gain different moments of enlightenment that culminates and will end at the final enlightenment, which is Buddhahood. So it doesn't matter if you feel a small insight or great insight of sun enlightenment, you still get back to your practice because it's not done yet. Your path is still a long path ahead. You will still need to perfect yourself and also to aid others in this path towards becoming a Buddha. So even if you attain enlightenment, if you do not practice, you will never become a Buddha because it still takes lifetimes to be able to perfect all of these practices. While some will practice first and become enlightened later, others will become enlightened first and practice later. Whichever comes first, enlightenment or spiritual practice, upon enlightenment, one must continue to cultivate according to the path and practice according to the teachings. And one must practice in this human world by serving others and nourishing the conditions for your own merit and wisdom, because it's only through the perfection of both merits and wisdom, through your own insights and your meritorious deeds, that you are able to nourish these conditions to be able to finally arrive to attain towards Buddhahood. When all causes and conditions are in place, one will naturally attain enlightenment and become a Buddha, just like Sakyamuni Buddha. This is why all Buddhas become enlightened in the human world, because the human world has the right condition, the right challenges of still having some suffering, but it's not all suffering all the time. There is still some reprieve with some joys in our world as well. And so Chan practitioners are humanistic because they have developed meditative concentrations for generations and seek enlightenment rather than trying to attain towards Buddhahood. After attaining enlightenment in this world, they are liberated in the present moment of their lives, and they find peace and freedom in body and mind, and thus understand the mind and see their own nature. All of this comes from enlightenment. So why worry about being unable to become a Buddha when you are able to attain towards bits and pieces of enlightenment in our life? So meditative concentration is a part of life and it's not just about sitting meditation. Sitting meditation is a way to train the mind to develop concentration, to be able to focus, and it is a skillful method for generating the power of meditative concentration. And Chan practitioner must never indulge in the bliss of sitting meditation. It might be very calming. You will feel blissful dharma joy from time to time, but that is not the point of meditating. It's to be able to develop, to gain insights into wisdom. So lest you forget Buddhism's mission in the world and forget that learning meditation means breathing out of the same nostrils as all living beings. This is a famous quote that's been used that you should, well, live your life or feel the same as all of existence, all living beings. And developing meditative concentration puts you in sync with the pulse of the whole universe. This should be the intention of all Chan practitioners and by extent, Buddhist practitioners in the world. And so I believe, yeah, that's all for today. So, any questions about enlightenment? Anyone is already gotten really confused by now? Yeah. The last paragraph actually answered my question. Mm-hmm. 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 It was mentioned that there were a list of people that became enlightened. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My thoughts at that moment when you were speaking of that was, yeah, do they continue on, even though they become enlightened, they need to continue practicing that enlightenment, continue practicing, because once you become enlightened, you're not necessarily in your blissful world, you just like go off and live a great life, right? Just, so that goes back to our question, I guess it's just constant practice that we're training our mind to be that better person, to strive to be a person of better understanding. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I believe you had answered your own question. That's really good. So you I just maybe just kind of curious, how do enlightenment feel like? Because if you don't know how it's feel like, how do you describe it? So how do you know when you like it? You know what I'm saying? Well, you will definitely know when the moment struck you, as in it's like being hit by a train bus, but in a good way, in a good way. Conditions, and we've got to remember, independent, we don't believe in independent origination, and dependent, we believe in dependent origination. And when that egg, when it's time, when the conditions are right, when that thread wears out and gravity gets control of that thing, then you're going to get the second. And that was the conditioning. Yeah. The cause and effect of there, but it's the time and the condition are another thing, and it's out of our control. We have to be aware of it. When the moment arrives, you will definitely know, because it's unlike any experience that you have felt before. Well, for me, I don't really claim that I have a lot of those experience, but in one of my meditation retreats, well, definitely I've gone through the 7 days and been instructed every day, oh, you must do this, you must do that. And we are instructed to do the breathing, mindfulness of breathing. And it was one day when like in that session, that particular session, it's kind of special in a way that we had never ran. We did walking meditation, in all of the other days, but on that particular day, the Chan instructor tells us to start running. And we're like, okay, because he the stick, meditation stick, he'll just hit you if you don't follow in his instructions. Just run, like panting after that. Or through the whole one still okay, came back. When it's time for us to take a break to the pantry, as sort of a pantry, and we can have some drinks. And when I start sip, can really feel like the water going down because I'm really panting and I really need like gasping for air. You can really feel the water going down and air coming in again. So that that felt different. That felt really different. And yeah, and oh, okay, that's why we need to watch our breath. It's just a really, it's a really a special feeling. Yeah. Yeah. It's just that awareness, and yeah, you're able to be really focused. And yeah, that's well what I felt. Maybe it's not true alignment, but I felt that that's special. Yeah. Yeah, Cassandra. On the scale of zero to Buddha, where do you think the venerables are in the temple? Would you say they're all bodhisattvas, or? We are definitely. I think a lot of us are still starting up. We're just we we vow to become to practice the path of a bodhisattva. So the thing about the bodhisattva path, when you had initiated your bodhi vows, the vow to become a Buddha and vow to practice, put effort into practicing it, you will technically become a bodhisattva. So you don't need to become enlightened or be like the bodhisattvas in the bodhisattva hall, Onion Bodhisattva, Manjushri Bodhisattva, all those different bodhisattvas. When you had initiated that mind of wanting to seek wisdom and also to aid others in the process as well, then you are technically a bodhisattva because you have vowed to want to reach that goal. You want to reach the point where you're able to attain towards Buddhahood, and to be able to, with the wisdom of Buddhahood, help others to seek enlightenment as well. And so technically, when you had initiated that mind, that vow to wanting to become a Buddha, that's enough. And even in the Lotus Sutra, it is said that even when someone like unintendedly or like just go into the temple, doesn't pay a lot of attention, and just even uttering the word of Namo for which is homage to the Buddha, you will be in the sutra, you will definitely become a Buddha. So that is in the Lotus Sutra. Even when you've done something that seems really insignificant, you just say homage to the Buddha, Namo for, and you will be able to end up being a Buddha. And so for the venerables, even for our volunteers, when you had initiated mind of wanting to reach that point of becoming a Buddha and wanting to help others through the wisdom attained, you technically are a bodhisattva. Even in our, especially in the Chinese language, when we greet other people, of course, we will say auspicious blessings, which is Jixiang, and we will also greet other as 各位菩萨, which is dear bodhisattvas. We we do that all the time. And our founder, Venerable Master Xing Yun, will also use that as an opportunity to teach us, to let us know that we are a bodhisattva if we vow to be able to attain towards that. And so everyone can become a bodhisattva when you put the mind to it, when you really aim for it, and you wanted to help other people in the process. You are just uncovering, holding potential, your own Buddha nature, and just let your Buddha nature unfolds and really be able to develop from there through your own effort. And so, yeah, to the question, I believe not just the venerables in the temple, our volunteers, everyone, even you like in the refuge taking ceremony in the past when our founder is still with us, in the refuge taking ceremony, he will ask us to say, okay, all of you, please say with me, I am a Buddha. So say with me, I am a Buddha. So everyone follows. And then he starts to say that within all of us, we have the Buddha nature, the same potential as Sakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha whom we are taking refuge in this ceremony today. But this refuge is not towards just Sakyamuni Buddha, but also towards our own Buddha nature as well. We need to develop our own Buddha nature to be able to really practice what the Buddha had intended to teach us. And so, yeah, everyone from the scale of 0 to 10, if Buddhahood is 10, at least we are at 1 because we have initiated, we took the first step towards Buddhahood. So even if you're just 1, you're still a bodhisattva. You had started on the path, but you'll definitely end up at the destination, at the goal, which is Buddhahood. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that it may take lives, multiple lives, for who knows how long to become a Buddha or to become a Bodhisattva. Would somebody return to birth, of course, as a Bodhisattva in the form of, say, the Gandhi, or somebody of other people that made people in different part of the way?
A lot of people, especially in Christianity, like I heard a lot of this saying that Jesus Christ might be a bodhisattva that came to this earth to really teach us, to lead us towards that ultimate goal. But that's a really good way to say that. Well, actually, yes, Jesus Christ, from the things that he do, like from his vows, like I'm taking all these suffering so that you will not bear this sin, quote unquote sin, and I bear all these sin for you, all these suffering for you. So that itself is a vow of trying to help other people to relieve of their suffering. So technically that is also bodhisattva. So he might be on that path and he might also be further than most of us, but we are actually technically every one of us, regardless if you're Buddhist, non-Buddhist, you're technically all on that path because we all had the same nature. So eventually we will all get there. It's just the time. If you realize it, if you put in the effort, we will all eventually be able to get to that point. So everyone's a Buddha, everyone's a bodhisattva. Yeah.
Your personal experience in terms of alignment. So I remember I did a hike in Peru, which is like a high elevation trail, and then I had high altitude problems. I felt like I couldn't raise a lot of time during the trail, but in the end, I finished it. But when I came down from the trail and I look back, I see the highest mountain in the country and the clouds floating around it. At that time, I just felt enlightened. And I just felt like peaceful, like quiet and blissful and blessed and everything. And even though I don't claim myself to be a religious person, I don't know if that's some sort of like enlightenment statement I had at that moment.
It's definitely feeling really calming, and it's a sense of achievement that you have conquered. So if we are able to bring that into our spiritual practice, it will be a really big driving force for us. We will want to achieve not just mountains that are outside of us, but also the mountains that are within us as well. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else would like to have a question? Because I do need to get to our next class. I have a next class. But next week, I believe we're off next week because there's the day of giving, as well as there is the annual medicine Buddha Dharma service that's happening next weekend as well. So I believe we're off, and we'll be coming back again the week after. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.